In the midst of a fierce Montana blizzard, a grieving widower stumbles upon a desperate mother and her children seeking refuge in his barn. And in that moment, his solitary existence is transformed forever. Will he summon the bravery to not only welcome them into his home, but also to share his heart and bestow upon them his name? With every step through the knee-deep snow, Levi Mason felt the searing burn in his legs. The harsh Montana winter of 1885 offered no compassion, even to a man who had spent his entire life in its grip. The wind roared through the desolate fields as night descended, unleashing another wave of biting snow that lashed against his rugged features. Rusty, his loyal companion, forged ahead, carving out a slender trail for his master to pursue. "Nearly there, lad," Levi remarked, his voice swallowed by the fierce gusts of wind. The barn emerged from the swirling white mist, a somber silhouette set against the tumultuous evening sky. Levi braced against the gusts, pulling his coat snugly around him. For 3 long years, he had resided in solitude on this farm since Amelia's passing, engaging in conversation solely with animals and the rare passerby. There were days when he remained completely silent. Rusty arrived at the barn ahead of everyone else, scratching at the door and whimpering, an unusual display for the typically serene dog. What is it exactly? Levi urged himself forward, his pace quickening even as his joints protested with each step. The barn door groaned as he swung it open, the comforting scent of hay and horses welcoming him inside. Yet there was a distinct change. Rusty rushed in, his tail flicking with excitement as he vanished into the darkness beyond the glow of the lantern. Levi lifted the lantern, its light casting a warm radiance over the barn floor. His heart almost ceased to beat as the light illuminated a woman nestled in the hay, 2 small children clinging to her sides. Their faces, marked by grime and gaunt from starvation, gazed back at him, a blend of hope and trepidation in their eyes. "Please," the woman whispered, her voice a mere breath. She drew her daughters nearer, their delicate shoulders wrapped in what appeared to be a worn tablecloth. "Only one night, and we'll depart at dawn." Levi remained motionless, caught in a moment of stillness. It had been ages since he had any unanticipated visitors, especially a woman with kids looking for refuge in his barn. "What brought you to this point?" he inquired at last, his voice hoarse from neglect. The woman took a deep breath. "We strolled from Silver Creek." "Silver Creek?" "It lies 20 miles to the south." Levi cast a quick look at the children's flimsy shoes, now drenched from the snow. "The mining company granted us just 3 days to vacate following my husband's death," she recounted, her words spilling forth rapidly as though she feared they would be dismissed before she could complete her story. "My name is Evelyn Bennett. Here are my daughters, Grace and Zoe." The older girl, likely around 7, raised her chin a bit at the sound of her name. The little one, hardly more than a toddler, pressed her face against her mother's side. Outside, the wind howled fiercely, shaking the barn walls with its relentless force. Levi gazed from their terrified expressions to the raging blizzard outside the door. The closest town was located 15 miles distant. They wouldn't survive. Not in the tempest. Not with 2 little ones in tow. "You can't remain here," Levi finally declared. Evelyn's expression dimmed, yet she acquiesced, beginning to collect her sparse possessions. "I comprehend. We'll seek out another location." "No," Levi clarified, shaking his head in disagreement. "You simply cannot remain in the barn. The chill in the air is quite intense. You must come to the house." The wave of relief that spread across the woman's face caused Levi to avert his gaze, feeling uneasy with her expression of gratitude. He wasn't extending a hand of charity, merely upholding fundamental human decency. Surely anyone in that situation would act similarly, right? As he guided them through the yard toward his home, Levi sensed a stirring within him, an emotion he struggled to identify. 3 years of void had solidified something within him, making it hard to draw breath in the presence of others. Now he was inviting unfamiliar faces into Amelia's sanctuary. Evelyn faltered in the thick snow, almost losing her balance until Levi grasped her arm. Her slender frame took him by surprise. He could sense the delicate structure of her bones beneath the fabric of her coat sleeve. "When was the last time you had something to eat?" he inquired. She replied, sidestepping his true inquiry, that the children had a small amount of bread yesterday. The farmhouse exuded a sense of cleanliness, yet it remained quite bare and unadorned. Levi had tucked away many of Amelia's personal items, the vibrant quilts and the dried flower arrangements, after her passing. The rooms now seemed stark, functional. Text. "Take a seat by the fire," he said, pointing to the hearth where the embers still flickered. "I will set it in motion once more." As he rekindled the fire, Levi felt a sharp awareness of his unfamiliarity with companionship. His movements seemed awkward, and his home felt unfamiliar with others around. The girls observed him quietly, their eyes wide in their petite faces. "I'll whip up something to eat," he remarked, heading to the kitchen where half a pot of stew lingered from his dinner. "Thank you," Evelyn said, assisting her daughters in taking off their soaked shoes. "We promise to be no inconvenience. I am willing to contribute my skills in work, cooking, and cleaning in return for a place to stay." Levi gave a curt nod. He was already estimating that the storm would probably endure for at least 3 days. Their journey was impossible in such weather conditions. However, after that, he had not contemplated anything beyond this evening. While warming the stew, Levi cast a look over his shoulder at the trio gathered around his fire. The little girl had drifted off against her mother, fatigue ultimately conquering her hunger and fear. A child had not slept under this roof for what felt like an eternity. Amelia had yearned for children with all her heart. Now unfamiliar faces filled the space they had once called their own. How would Amelia perceive this situation? The question arose unexpectedly, catching him off guard. For a long time he had refrained from contemplating her thoughts on anything. The pain was overwhelming. Yet this evening, as he brought bowls of steaming stew to the eager family huddled by his fire, Levi felt an undeniable sense that, in some mysterious way, Amelia might have played a role in their arrival. The dawn illuminated the frost-laden landscape with hues of rose and amber, a captivating allure that concealed the perilous chill. Levi lingered by the kitchen window, the warmth of his coffee enveloping his hands, observing the momentary lull in the blizzard's relentless fury. Rusty rested at his feet, surprisingly at ease to stay inside instead of starting his morning patrol of the property. "Is there typically this much snow?" a faint voice inquired. Levi glanced over to see Grace, the older girl, poised in the doorway. Her dark hair cascaded in disheveled waves, framing a face that appeared far too solemn for someone so young. He replied, "Not always. This winter has proven to be more challenging than usual." The girl nodded, as though his response validated a secret belief she held. "That explains why Mama struggled to find employment in Silver Creek. People kept insisting, 'Return in the spring.'" A sudden wave of pity, perhaps, washed over Levi unexpectedly. He found himself unaccustomed to the candid remarks of children. Though spring seems distant, it inevitably arrives in due time. Evelyn emerged from behind her daughter, her appearance noticeably improved after a night of rest. "Grace, please refrain from asking Mr. Mason any questions." "She's no bother," Levi responded instinctively, even though engaging with others felt like a distant memory he was trying to grasp once more. "If you're interested, there's coffee available." By mid-morning, the storm unleashed its renewed wrath, confining everyone within the shelter of their homes. Levi withdrew to his workshop connected to the house, finding solace in the known surroundings. His hands embraced the familiar rhythm of sanding wood, crafting something real amid the chaos of uncertainty. The incomplete rocking chair lingered in silence for months, a venture he had embarked upon but ultimately left behind when the echoes of Amelia grew too vivid. A gentle rap broke the silence of his contemplation. Evelyn lingered in the doorway with little Zoe perched on her hip. "I trust we aren't interrupting you," she remarked. "However, Zoe observed your tools and—" She paused, indicating the child's captivated gaze fixed on the woodworking instruments. Levi placed his sandpaper aside. "My father was a carpenter who imparted all his knowledge to me." "You have quite the talent," Evelyn remarked, her fingers gliding over the sleek outline of the incomplete rocking chair. "These dovetail joints are exceptional." Levi's expression was one of astonishment. "Are you familiar with woodworking?" A faint smile graced Evelyn's lips. "Before we ventured west, my father crafted furniture in Pennsylvania. My early years were filled with the scent of sawdust and the soft touch of wood shavings." For the first time, Levi truly observed her. Evelyn Bennett appeared younger than he had first assumed, likely around 30, her dark hair pulled back tightly from a face that may have once been attractive before life's challenges left their mark. Yet her eyes conveyed a sharp intellect and an additional quality, an unyielding determination that remained unshattered. "What led you to the Montana Territory?" he inquired, his usual shyness giving way to a surge of curiosity. "Visions of shimmering silver," she replied with a weary chuckle. "Owen, my husband, learned that there were lucrative opportunities in the mines. We emerged 3 years ago filled with great expectations. Little Zoe wriggled to be set free, and Evelyn gently placed her on the floor, observing as the child made her way toward a small wooden horse that Levi had crafted months earlier and left behind. "She's welcome to play with it if she wishes," Levi suggested. Evelyn acknowledged with appreciation. "Owen passed away in a tunnel collapse 8 weeks ago. The company provided us with his final wages, deducting the amounts they asserted we owed for rent and store credit. Returning to the East fell short of expectations." The blunt manner in which she conveyed this heartbreaking news took Levi by surprise. Without tears or dramatic sighs, simply the stark reality of her circumstances, expressed in a manner akin to discussing inclement weather. "Apologies," he expressed insufficiently. After a brief pause, he continued. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. The fever claimed her life before the doctor could even arrive at our farm." Evelyn locked her gaze with his. "I extend my condolences for your loss." This exchange of sympathies may have been small, yet it forged a delicate connection between them, a fragile bridge of mutual understanding. The remainder of the day unfolded in an odd domestic cadence that seemed both alien and oddly recognizable to Levi. Evelyn took charge in the kitchen, crafting a surprisingly flavorful stew from the meager pantry supplies available. The girls slowly shed their caution, with Grace even inquiring about the farm animals from Levi, while Zoe trailed Rusty with a serious sense of loyalty. As the evening settled in, Levi took his place in his familiar chair by the fire. The usual quiet was replaced by the gentle sounds of activity, with Evelyn's needle rhythmically pulling thread through fabric as she worked on mending Grace's dress. The girls engaged in a hushed dialogue while they interacted with the wooden animals that Levi had gifted them. "The storm is expected to continue for a few more days," he stated abruptly. "Feel free to remain here until it subsides." Evelyn lifted her gaze from her sewing. "That's very generous, but we've already placed enough on ourselves." "It's no trouble at all," Levi replied. He found himself taken aback by the reality of those words. "Where will you venture once the skies brighten?" The inquiry lingered in the atmosphere surrounding them. Evelyn's hand froze, her face reflecting a deep concern. "A distant cousin of mine, and Helena has finally responded. After Owen passed away, I reached out to her, but I never got a response. I'm uncertain if she remains, yet it's the sole link we possess now." Levi nodded, mentally assessing the distance. "Helena is almost 100 miles to the northwest. The path is far from simple during the winter months, particularly when traversing by foot. Our choices are quite limited, Mr. Mason." Evelyn's voice carried a straightforward quality that communicated much about her circumstances without seeking sympathy. "Levi," he made the correction. "If you're going to be under my roof, you might as well address me by my name." A fleeting smile graced Evelyn's lips. "Very well, Levi." That evening, as Levi settled into his bed, he absorbed the strange symphony of breaths surrounding him in his home, pondering the mysteries that the next day might unveil. 3 years of isolation had etched profound lines into his existence, routines he adhered to instinctively. These intruders had thrown everything into chaos. Yet somehow, in spite of the discomfort and clumsiness, Levi found it impossible to desire their departure. The house exuded a unique ambiance tonight, radiating warmth as if it had finally recalled its true essence after enduring years of abandonment. The blizzard howled outside, binding them in this unforeseen situation for a while longer. Levi found himself pondering whether this storm was just a brief interlude in their individual paths or the onset of something beyond their current comprehension. 3 days went by, and the snow continued to fall. The world beyond had been reshaped into a stunning yet perilous white confinement. Within the walls of Levi Mason's farmhouse, another transformation was quietly unfolding, something more elusive to define yet equally significant. "Your cow is about to calve," Evelyn remarked, coming back from the morning tasks that Levi had, with some hesitation, permitted her to partake in. She kicked off the snow from her boots at the kitchen door, her cheeks rosy from the chill and effort. Levi lifted his gaze from the breakfast dishes he was meticulously drying. What are the signs? The manner in which she stands, subtly adjusting her weight. My father raised dairy cows in Pennsylvania. I would estimate it will happen in the next couple of days. Levi nodded, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. He had observed the indications as well, yet numerous urban dwellers might fail to identify them. Your perception is impressive. Grace strode into this kitchen, her former shyness fading more with each passing day. Mr. Levi, Rusty discovered something in the snow, something that is alive. Levi trailed the enthusiastic child to the front porch, where Rusty vigilantly watched over a small, trembling rabbit, its leg visibly hurt. "Oh, you poor creature," Grace murmured, kneeling next to the animal. "Is there a way we can assist with this?" Levi paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. Under typical conditions, he would have swiftly brought the creature's agony to an end, yet the sight of Grace's hopeful expression caused him to rethink his decision. After a moment of contemplation, he finally agreed. "We can give it a shot." Retrieve a box from the storeroom. Grace dashed away, thrilled by her task. As Levi stood there, Evelyn emerged in the doorway. With a gentle tone, Evelyn remarked that she has always been drawn to those in need of healing. Owen often claimed she would rescue every stray in Silver Creek if given the chance. Levi experienced an unusual pang in his chest when Owen Bennett's name was brought up. He found himself reflecting on the man from time to time in recent days, pondering the kind of husband and father he might have been, and if he had truly valued what he possessed before the mine claimed him. Young Zoe ambled onto the porch, grasping her wooden horse tightly. At merely 4 years of age, she uttered fewer words than Grace, yet took in the world around her with serious, watchful brown eyes. She gestured towards the rabbit, her expression filled with worry. "In pain," she expressed it plainly. "Indeed," Levi nodded, lowering himself to her height. "However, we will strive to improve it." The child regarded him with deep contemplation, then nodded, as though he had successfully completed a significant evaluation. By mid-afternoon, the rabbit lay comfortably in a cozy nest of straw in the kitchen, its wounded legs carefully supported by splints made of tiny wooden pieces and strips of cloth. Grace took it upon herself to be the nurse, monitoring the patient at regular intervals. "What shall we call him?" she inquired, tenderly caressing the rabbit's velvety coat. "Grace," Evelyn warned, "try not to form strong attachments. Captivity frequently proves detrimental to the survival of wild animals." Levi noticed the girl's expression change dramatically. "Yet there are moments when they indeed do," he remarked. "I once cared for a young fox until it regained its strength, resided in the barn for months prior to returning to the wild." Grace's face lit up. "Is that so? What was the name of that individual?" Levi confessed he didn't have one. "I never considered giving him a name." Grace was adamant that everything must have a name. "It's the feeling that confirms your place in a community." The profound clarity of her words lingered in the atmosphere. Levi locked eyes with Evelyn from across the kitchen, noticing a fleeting expression of anguish cross her features before she averted her gaze. That evening, Levi withdrew to his workshop as Evelyn settled the girls for the night. The incomplete rocking chair lingered in the middle of the room, a testament to a project begun for Amelia but left unfinished. His fingers glided over the sleek contours of the wood, recalling her request for a chair where she could cradle their future children, kids who never arrived. The echo of footsteps drew him away from his musings. Evelyn lingered in the doorway, cradling a mug of coffee in each hand. "I thought you might enjoy this," she remarked, extending it towards him. The girls have finally drifted off to sleep. Levi took the mug, nodding in appreciation. Evelyn lingered longer than he anticipated. Instead, she meandered through his workshop, scrutinizing the tools arranged meticulously on the wall. The furniture items are at different points in their creation process. "This is beautiful work," she remarked, her fingers gliding over the spindles of the rocking chair. "Your wife surely cherished the creations you crafted for her." He confessed that she had never laid eyes on this one. "I began it when we believed she could be pregnant. Following her passing, I found it impossible to complete it." Evelyn's expression became gentle, reflecting her empathy. "Owen skillfully crafted toys for the girls. There's nothing quite like your creations, yet they held them dear." Grace cherished a small wooden bird he crafted until it vanished when we had to depart from our company house. Their departure cast a pall over Evelyn's expression. "The storm appears to be easing," she noted, glancing out the small workshop window, likely to be clear by tomorrow. Levi experienced a sudden, surprising ache at her words. "There's no hurry to leave. The roads will remain impassable for several more days. We have relied on your generosity for quite some time now." Evelyn's voice carried a steady yet soothing quality. "As soon as the weather improves, we ought to proceed to Helena." Levi was on a quest to uncover reasons to oppose their leaving. "It stretches almost 100 miles through the thick, deep snow. You lack funds and means of travel." "We've managed before," Evelyn replied, yet her eyes revealed a hint of doubt. "Maybe you should hold off until spring," Levi proposed, his words spilling out before he had the chance to think them through. "Once the routes are open and travel becomes more secure, you may choose to remain as the housekeeper if that suits you. I can offer a modest salary." Evelyn observed him intently, her face a mystery in the glow of the lamp. "What would compel you to take that action?" "You have no understanding of who we are." Levi found himself at a loss for words. He struggled to articulate the void that loomed ahead following their exit. The house had started to resonate with warmth and familiarity once more, their presence weaving a sense of belonging throughout its walls. Ultimately, he concluded that it was practical. A secure location is essential until conditions improve. "I would appreciate some assistance with the farm." It wasn't the complete truth, yet it contained enough substance that Evelyn didn't outright reject it. Instead, she nodded with a contemplative air. "I will take it into consideration. Thanks a lot." As the night wore on, Levi found himself wide awake, attuned to the soft whispers of the wind, gradually fading beyond his window. The tempest was truly upon us. Tomorrow would unveil a canvas of clear skies, accompanied by choices that demanded attention. The idea of going back to his lonely life stirred a deep ache in his chest, a sensation he had almost forgotten could exist. In the guest room across the hall, Evelyn Bennett lay wide awake, her mind racing with calculations. The funds provided by Owen's mining company had vanished long ago. The trek to Helena was fraught with peril, teetering on the edge of danger, particularly with 2 young children in the harshness of winter, and her cousin, a woman she hardly knew, may not be pleased to have 3 unanticipated dependents on her hands. Levi Mason's proposal was grounded in practicality, yet Evelyn felt an intriguing depth beneath his rough demeanor that both attracted her and instilled a sense of caution. She saw the familiar glimmer of solitude in his gaze, grasping its essence deeply. However, she had to prioritize rational choices over feelings, especially with her daughter's well-being on the line. The morning unveiled a radiant sun glistening on pristine snow, accompanied by the faint, troubling call of a distressed cow in the distance. As Levi laced up his boots, Evelyn made her entrance into the kitchen. "The calves are coming," she remarked, almost as if it needed to be said, as she reached for her coat. They made their way through the deep snow to the barn, where the cow lowed in distress, her sides heaving with contractions. "I'll fetch some fresh straw," Evelyn said, gliding purposefully toward the storage area. For the next hour they collaborated seamlessly, their actions in perfect harmony, as if they were seasoned partners in this endeavor. As complications emerged, with the calf positioned backward, Levi felt a deep sense of gratitude for Evelyn's nimble hands and unexpected strength. At last, a damp, awkward calf emerged into existence, as its mother promptly started to groom it with her coarse tongue. "A heifer," Levi remarked, a smile on his face. "Good stock, too," Evelyn smiled, her cheeks glowing with effort and contentment. Straw clung to her hair and clothes, and Levi couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her current appearance and the desperate woman he'd discovered in his barn just days prior. "Life continues," she murmured gently, observing the new calf as it endeavored to rise on its unsteady legs, regardless of the challenges. Levi nodded, momentarily at a loss for words. Instead, he quietly stood beside her, observing the fresh beginnings taking shape in his barn on a radiant winter morning, feeling that something just as delicate and new was making its way into his heart. Grace's thrilled exclamation signaled the girl's arrival, wrapped up warmly against the chill, yet excited to meet the new calf. "May I give her a name?" Grace inquired, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Levi looked over at Evelyn, who offered a subtle nod of consent. "Indeed," he informed Grace. She requires an identity to understand her place in the world. The initial journey into town took place on a Tuesday, 2 weeks following the storm's onset. The Bennett family lingered, their presence reshaping Levi's tranquil farmhouse in ways that were both understated and deeply impactful. Evelyn's sensible choice to stay until spring was accompanied by specific conditions. She would support herself by managing the household and assisting with farm tasks, guiding the girls to pitch in based on their skills. Levi secured the horses to the sleigh, carefully loading it with empty feed sacks and a list of necessary supplies from Riverspend. Evelyn enveloped the girls in every blanket she could find, their eager expressions almost hidden beneath thick woolen scarves. "For the first time in a sleigh," Grace explained, her breath creating tiny clouds in the icy air. "Mom, will there be other kids in the neighborhood?" Evelyn gently brushed her daughter's hair. "Maybe, but keep in mind our previous conversation. We'll handle our affairs swiftly and be back before nightfall." Levi assisted them onto the wooden bench, observing the slight tremor in Evelyn's hands, which contrasted with her assured demeanor. He grasped the depth of her anxiety. After weeks of solitude on the farm, the thought of encountering unfamiliar faces stirred intricate graces regarding their peculiar way of life. The sleigh moved effortlessly across the firm snow, the bells ringing a joyful tune that echoed Grace's bubbling enthusiasm. Zoe sat silently between her mother and sister, her mittened hand occasionally reaching out to caress the wooden horse that Levi had carved for her, now an ever-present companion. "Riverspend isn't much," Levi cautioned, as they reached the top of the last hill. "A single main street, a general store, a church, and a post office. Sheriff Davis maintains control, though disturbances are infrequent, particularly when young ones arrive with bulging pockets." Evelyn nodded, adjusting her worn coat with a sense of determination. "It resembles Silver Creek, just on a smaller scale." The arrival of the sleigh on Riverspend's main street captured everyone's attention right away. Levi sensed the intensity of curious gazes as he assisted Evelyn and the girls, murmuring brief introductions to Mr. Jenkins, the proprietor of the general store. "Mason, I was beginning to wonder if you were lost beneath that mountain of snow," Jenkins greeted warmly, observing the unfamiliar woman and children with open curiosity. "It has been quite some time since you last visited the town." "I've been quite occupied," Levi responded briefly, assisting Zoe as she stepped into the store. Within, a cozy embrace of warmth and the intertwined aromas of coffee, leather, and spices surrounded them. Grace stared in awe at the shelves brimming with items she hadn't encountered since departing Silver Creek. Vibrant candies in glass jars, rolls of fabric, and gleaming tools suspended from hooks above. "Good morning, Mr. Mason," Mrs. Jenkins called out from behind the counter, her smile faltering just a bit as she caught sight of the Bennett family. And who could these individuals possibly be? Before Levi could respond, the store door swung open once more, revealing Reverend Hollis, his eyebrows arching dramatically at the sight before him. "Levi Mason, what a delightful surprise," the minister remarked, taking off his hat. His eyes moved deliberately from Evelyn to the girls, then returned to Levi, filled with unvoiced inquiries. "Reverend?" Levi nodded briefly. "Allow me to present Mrs. Evelyn Bennett along with her daughters, Grace and Zoe. They'll be at my farm until spring arrives and makes travel safer." "I understand," Reverend Hollis responded, though his demeanor indicated he perceived much more than Levi had conveyed. "It is a delight to see you, Mrs. Bennett. What draws you to our quaint community?" Evelyn locked eyes with him unwaveringly. "Situation. Reverend, my husband perished in the Silver Creek mine collapse. Mr. Mason graciously provided refuge when we found ourselves without a place to turn." Her composed reply appeared to appease the minister for the moment, yet Levi observed Mrs. Jenkins inching nearer, eager for more information. Reverend Hollis remarked on the nature of Christian charity, noting that while it is commendable, one must acknowledge that maintaining proper appearances holds significance even in acts of kindness. It seems that Mrs. Bennett might find herself better placed in town, where the Ladies' Aid Society could offer her support. Levi experienced a surge of irritation creeping up his neck. "Mrs. Bennett and her daughters are doing well at my farm. They don't weigh anyone down." The dialogue could have lingered in an awkward silence if Sheriff Davis hadn't decided to make his entrance, shaking off the snow from his boots with a firm stomp. "Mason, great to see you," he exclaimed, seemingly unaware of the tension, came to alert everyone. "A wolf pack has been sighted to the north of town. Keep your animals nearby and your firearm even nearer." This development skillfully shifted focus, enabling Levi to assist Evelyn in collecting their supplies as the townsfolk probed the sheriff regarding the wolves. They operated with precision, carefully choosing only the essentials from Jenkins' shelves. Levi observed Evelyn pausing for a moment over a bolt of blue calico before she continued on to more utilitarian items like flour, sugar, and coffee. As Levi completed this transaction for their items, he quietly included the blue fabric in their purchases, disregarding Evelyn's surprised expression. "The girls require fresh dresses for spring," he murmured, steering clear of her gaze. Outside, they carefully packed their supplies into the sleigh. Levi sensed a gaze from every window lining the street. Only when they were midway through their journey did Evelyn finally break the silence. "You really shouldn't have bought that fabric," she said softly, making sure the girls were focused on spotting wildlife. "I'm not able to repay you at this moment. Think of it as a prepayment on your earnings," Levi responded. "Moreover, Grace is outgrowing all her belongings." Evelyn examined his profile closely. "Is it consistently that way in the town?" Every question and judgment lurks just beneath the surface of those smiles. With a heavy sigh, Levi maneuvered the horses around the snow-laden ditch. In small towns, life revolves around two essential elements: diligent effort and the exchange of stories. By tomorrow, there will be a multitude of narratives circulating about your presence at my farm. None of them will capture the straightforward reality, which is that at times, individuals assist one another without expecting anything in exchange. Evelyn found comfort in the straightforwardness of his response, falling quiet once more as her eyes were drawn to the horizon where Levi's farmhouse slowly emerged from the distance. That evening, once the girls had drifted off to sleep, Levi discovered Evelyn seated at the kitchen table, meticulously cutting patterns from the blue calico. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her gaze fixed elsewhere. "In our defense today," Levi shifted uneasily. "No need for defense. You are genuine individuals in sincere situations." "Nevertheless," Evelyn maintained her stance, placing her scissors on the table. "Not many would have taken the steps you did, first welcoming us in, and then standing firm against the town's verdict." Her appreciation left Levi feeling more uneasy than the town's doubt ever could. With a slight smile, Evelyn remarked that she had never really been concerned about Riverspen's opinion of her. "I observed. Is that the reason you reside so far away?" "No," Levi replied, surprising himself with his candor. "Amelia and I made this choice together. She cherished the perspective from the East Hill, claiming she could gaze into infinity on bright days." "He must miss her deeply." Levi nodded, struggling to articulate the void that had characterized his life for the last 3 years. Yet somehow the ache felt distinct now, still there but less overwhelming, as if voicing it had eased its burden. At times, he remarked thoughtfully, "I believe she would feel let down by the person I've turned into in her absence, a man who hardly engages with those around him, who allows dust to settle on her cherished books." Evelyn's gaze deepened with empathy. "Loss transforms us in unforeseen ways. Following Owen's passing, I discovered that I could no longer sing, a daily ritual I had embraced throughout my life." The girls became aware. One evening, Grace inquired whether my voice had perished in the mine with her father. Her words, stripped of pretense, forged a bond between them, an acknowledgement of mutual experience that required no additional clarification. The days that followed set a fresh cadence at the farm. Evelyn was determined that the girls would pursue their education, transforming the kitchen table into a makeshift classroom every morning. Levi listened intently to Grace's reading lessons as he worked on repairing harnesses and cleaning tools, occasionally chiming in to correct a challenging word from across the room. One afternoon, a week after their excursion to town, Levi came back from inspecting the fence lines to discover Evelyn instructing Grace on how to knead bread dough. Zoe sat close by, quietly imitating their actions with a small piece of her own. "Is this what you had in mind, Mama?" Grace inquired, her face and apron speckled with flour. "Excellent," Evelyn commended. "Now we allow it to rise as we get dinner ready." Levi lingered in the doorway, captivated by the intimate tableau before him. For a fleeting instant, he could nearly envision himself as part of this family, feeling a sense of belonging within this scene of uncomplicated joy, instead of lingering on its periphery. A fleeting keeper of borrowed happiness, the facade crumbled when Grace caught sight of him. "Mr. Levi, I am in the process of making bread, authentic bread." "I understand," he said, taking off his boots, which were covered in snow. "Before you know it, you'll be managing this farm all on your own." Grace radiated with joy at the praise, while Evelyn, wiping her hands on her apron, felt a warm blush rise to her cheeks. "We've been quite occupied. The rabbit is improving as well. Grace has decided to call him Lucky." "Fortunate, indeed," Levi concurred, draping his coat over the door. "Sheriff Davis brought up the presence of wolves in the vicinity. I've strengthened the barn doors, but it would be prudent to keep the animals nearby for the time being." Evelyn nodded, her demeanor shifting to one of gravity. "Last night, I could have sworn I heard the sound of howling. Will they approach the house?" Levi confidently reassured her that it was improbable. Wolves typically exhibit a fear of humans. Nevertheless, I will maintain the rifle loaded until they decide to leave. That night, eerie howls reverberated through the snow-blanketed fields, sending shivers down Levi's spine, even as he tried to comfort Evelyn. He meticulously checked the locks twice before settling in for the night, ensuring his rifle was conveniently positioned within arm's reach beside his bed. Hours later, a sudden crash startled him from his slumber, not the eerie howl of wolves, but the sharp sound of shattering glass. Levi snatched his rifle and rushed down the stairs in his nightclothes, his heart racing. In the kitchen, he discovered Evelyn already present, lamp raised high, examining a shattered window. "Something came through it," she murmured, gesturing towards the shards of glass strewn across the floor and a small rock lying beneath the table. Levi picked up the stone, discovering a piece of paper wrapped around it, tightly bound with string. His hands trembled ever so slightly as he carefully unfolded the rough message. "A respectable woman does not remain with a man who is not her spouse. Depart or confront the consequences." Evelyn's quick gasp revealed that she had seen the words from behind him. Her face lost color in the lamplight, yet her voice held firm as she spoke. "The town has expressed its viewpoint clearly." Levi clenched the paper tightly in his hand, fury coursing through him. "This isn't the place. Merely a timid soul lurking in the shadows." With heavy footsteps echoing on the stairs, Grace made her entrance, her sleep-tousled head peeking around the doorframe. "Mother! Excuse me, Mr. Levi?" A sound reached my ears, merely the wind shattering a window. Evelyn wove her deception effortlessly. "Return to your slumber, my dear. All is well." As Levi secured a board over the shattered glass, a sense of unease settled within him. He understood that all was not well. The sense of security they had crafted over the past weeks now seemed delicate, imperiled by elements outside their influence. The serene existence they had been crafting drew eyes, the sort that seldom resulted in favorable consequences in secluded neighborhoods. "Maybe we ought to think about Helena again," Evelyn suggested gently, as Grace made her way back upstairs. "I cannot impose any difficulties upon you after everything you've done for us." Levi pivoted to meet her gaze, a newfound clarity emerging from the swirling chaos around him. "This space will be yours for however long you desire. I refuse to let an unknown threat push you away." "Yet," he interjected, "your reputation is a gamble I must take for myself. The only perspectives that hold significance for me are those within these walls." In the muted glow, Evelyn scrutinized him, as if probing for a hidden truth within his gaze. Whatever she observed in that moment seemed to bring her a sense of comfort, as she nodded with a deliberate slowness. She consented without hesitation. "However, if any additional issues arise, there won't be," Levi declared, projecting more assurance than he truly possessed. "The one responsible for this has certainly released their pent-up feelings. As spring approaches, the whispers will inevitably shift their focus." As he fastened the board across the window, Levi felt an unsettling certainty that this minor act of defiance was merely the first step, that a profound change had taken root in their once peaceful lives, and the repercussions were only beginning to reveal themselves. The stone that shattered the glass signified merely the start. As February transitioned into March, the days grew longer, and the temperatures began to rise. transforming the once pristine snow into a messy slush. Yet, as the natural world grew gentler, the human environment appeared to become more rigid around the peculiar household at Mason Farm. "Mail for you, Mason," Jenkins called from behind the general store counter, his tone intentionally relaxed as Levi walked in by himself. "And there's some intriguing chatter circulating in town about your house guests." Levi took the envelope in silence, instantly identifying the familiar handwriting of his cousin from Ohio. In the Montana Territory, news meandered at a leisurely pace, and letters between family members took their sweet time to arrive. "Sheriff Davis inquired about you," Jenkins persisted, as Levi remained unresponsive to his provocation. "It appears that there was a report of smoke emanating from your property last week, allegedly from burning furniture. There was a sense of curiosity about whether everything was fine beyond the confines of their immediate surroundings." Levi meticulously counted out coins for his purchases, maintaining a calm and composed expression. "My business is mine alone, Jenkins, but feel free to inform the sheriff that I'm just engaging in some spring cleaning like everyone else." The half-truth lingered awkwardly on his tongue. He had truly set fire to furniture. Amelia's dressing table, ruined beyond salvage by the second rock hurled through their bedroom window. He discovered it broken one morning, shards of glass scattered across the floor like malevolent seeds. The note he found was filled with such loathsome words that he decided to incinerate it along with the shattered furniture, determined to shield Evelyn and the girls from witnessing such animosity. Of course," Jenkins acknowledged, leaning in closer. "I'm simply a bit worried. People are curious about that Bennett woman's character, moving in with a widower so soon after her husband's death." Levi's grip on his purchases grew firmer. "Mrs. Bennett serves as my housekeeper, and that is the extent of her role. Any individual who dares to imply otherwise in my presence will face the consequences." The storekeeper took a step back, unnerved by Levi's silent rage. No offense intended, merely sharing what's being discussed. Outside, Levi packed his supplies into the wagon with quick, forceful motions. This trip to town was calculated. It was Evelyn who proposed coming alone after Grace came back from their previous trip in tears, having caught wind of the harsh whispers from the minister's wife regarding her mother. As he ascended to the wagon seat, a woman's voice rang out, calling his name. Levi glanced over to find Mrs. Whitaker making her way toward him, her ever-present look of disapproval set in stone. "Mr. Mason, may I have a moment of your time?" she insisted, not pausing for his consent. "The Ladies' Aid Society has deliberated on the unfortunate circumstances at your farm and has come to a conclusion. We are ready to secure appropriate accommodations in town for Mrs. Bennett and her children, as well as to facilitate suitable employment for her at the new hotel. This setup would be much better suited than her existing role." Levi looked at the woman with a frigid gaze. "There is no issue at my farm, Mrs. Whitaker, and Mrs. Bennett is already engaged in appropriate employment." "Mr. Mason," she insisted, her voice dropping to a whisper, "reflect on your position within the community. Ponder the plight of Amelia's recollections. What might her thoughts be on this outrageous arrangement?" The reference to his wife's name in this situation sparked a perilous fire within Levi's heart. He spoke softly, noting that Amelia would be disheartened by how this town treated a widow and her children. "Greetings, Mrs. Whitaker." He snapped the reins just as she opened her mouth to reply, the wagon jolting ahead and carrying her outraged words away with it. His hands shook with bottled anger as he steered the horses back home, his thoughts swirling with the town's scrutiny and his growing doubts about what lay ahead. From her elevated position on the east hill behind the farm, Evelyn observed the approach of Levi's wagon along the muddy road. She had arrived at this place to reflect, to untangle the complex feelings that the recent weeks had woven together. This hillside had transformed into her sanctuary, the spot Amelia cherished for its sweeping vistas. At times, Evelyn engaged in quiet conversation with her, sharing thoughts as if they were equals, posing unanswerable questions to the specter that lingered in every aspect of Levi's existence. "What do you wish for me to undertake?" she murmured softly, observing Levi's tense stance as he guided the wagon into the yard below. "They are tearing him apart due to our actions." The wind offered no solutions, only pulling at her shawl while she descended the hillside, mindful of the slick spring mud beneath her feet. As she neared the house, The sound of Grace's laughter intertwined with Levi's deeper voice reached her ears. He presented peppermint sticks, a delightful rarity that brought joy to the girls, even though his mood was clearly troubled. "You shouldn't have," Evelyn said from the doorway, observing her daughter's joy with a mix of pride and melancholy. Levi glanced upward, a mysterious expression momentarily crossing his features. Little details hold significance. Once the girls were tucked in for the night, Levi made his way to his workshop, finding comfort in the familiar rhythm of his tasks. The rocking chair he had started for Amelia was almost finished now. A project has been revived after years of being overlooked. His hands glided over the wood with a practiced rhythm, transforming rough edges into smooth curves, all the while his mind grappled with deeper complexities. Evelyn slipped in silently, her presence unnoticed until her voice broke the stillness. "The chatter around here is really escalating, don't you think?" Levi kept his gaze down, finding nothing worth sharing. Evelyn insisted. "I heard what Grace said to Zoe about the minister's wife labeling me a fallen woman, about the names that Chandler's boy hurled at them." At that moment, Levi lifted his head, a look of anguish crossing his face. Kids can be harsh when they mimic the biases of their parents. It has evolved beyond mere harsh words. Evelyn's voice quivered just a bit. "The shattered windows, the lifeless rabbit abandoned on our doorstep. These are not mere childish antics. It's clear that someone has a strong dislike for our presence." Levi paused, placing his tools aside, and locked eyes with her at last. "What would you like me to do? Dismiss you based on foolish rumors?" "Perhaps the rumors hold a grain of truth," Evelyn murmured softly. "We've crafted an entity that resembles a family and behaves like one, too. The boundaries have become indistinct, Levi, whether we acknowledge it or not." The weight of her words lingered in the air, awkward yet inescapable. In recent weeks they had settled into familiar routines that felt more and more comfortable, enjoying meals together, talking about the children's schooling, and making plans for the upcoming spring planting. Levi started to instruct Grace on how to ride the sweetest mare, as Zoe trailed behind him on the farm like a little shadow. They had forged a life together that mirrored the essence of a family connection in every aspect but one. "I never intended," Levi started. "Nor did I," Evelyn interjected softly. "However, intentions hold less weight than the actual circumstances, and the truth is that we've placed you in a challenging situation within this community." Levi leaned back from his workbench, irritation clear in every aspect of his posture. This community lacks the authority to pass judgment on matters beyond their comprehension, yet they do so, and their judgments carry weighty repercussions. Evelyn moved in, her face set with determination. "Today, a letter arrived for me. My cousin in Helena has finally replied. She has extended an invitation for us to stay until I can secure appropriate employment." The announcement struck Levi with the force of a physical blow. "So you're heading out?" Though it wasn't a question, Evelyn provided an answer regardless. "Once the mountain pass is clear, it will be for the best, Levi. Indeed, it is." He felt compelled to debate, to persuade her that confronting the town's animosity side by side was far better than retreating to solitary lives filled with isolation. Yet the expression eluded her, even though her choice was unmistakably resolved, not when her logic resonated with such heart-wrenching clarity. "What will you share with the girls?" he inquired instead. "The reality, which we have burdened your generosity with for far too long. Helena provides possibilities that Silver Creek lacked." Levi nodded, his throat constricted with unvoiced dissent. "I guess I'll get the wagon ready whenever you are set to go." "Levi?" Evelyn edged nearer, her hand resting cautiously on his arm. "The past few months have held a significance beyond words. You came to our rescue when we were out of options. The girls are completely enamored with you. And I them," he confessed gruffly. The unexpressed feeling lingered, and you found yourself caught in the middle, perilous to confront. Evelyn pulled her hand back, her eyes shimmering with unfallen tears. "It's time to wrap up the packing process." As she began to walk away, Levi's voice halted her in her tracks.
"Please take the rocking chair for the girls."
Evelyn looked at the almost finished chair, recognizing its importance. "I simply couldn't." "Please," Levi urged. "It was intended for a family. It ought to have one." Later, in the solitude of his workshop, Levi's fingers glided over the chair's sleek armrest, recalling the joy in Amelia's eyes when he first shared his vision to create it. For our little ones, she had declared, her eyes sparkling with optimism. Now it would nurture another woman's children, distant in Helena, where he couldn't witness their growth. The spring rain fell gently outside, cleansing the remnants of dirty snow and encouraging fresh green life to emerge from the dormant earth. Levi observed the water cascading down the workshop window, transforming the outside world into a blur of unrecognizable forms. In a week, maybe two, the mountain passes will become accessible for travel. And then the sudden, unforeseen chapter of his life would come to an end, leading him back to the solitude he believed he had learned to accept. At this moment, having caught a glimpse of an alternative, Levi found himself uncertain if he could endure it. Leaving is not an option. Grace's voice trembled with feeling. Her petite hands clenched into tight fists. Mr. Levi requires our assistance. His cow just gave birth, and Lucky still requires medication and... Grace. Evelyn knelt before her daughter, softly enveloping those tightly clenched fists in her own hands. Mr. Levi skillfully tended to his farm long before we set foot here. He'll manage perfectly well on his own. Yet he smiles now, the child insisted. He never smiled before. Zoe informed me of that. Evelyn cast a quick look at her younger daughter, taken aback. Zoe seldom shared her insights, yet she noticed almost everything. When did Zoe share this with you? Yesterday. Grace's lower lip quivered. She remarked that his eyes held a sadness upon our arrival, but now they radiate joy. If we leave, they'll feel sorrow once more. From the threshold, Levi cleared his throat, signaling his arrival. The saddlebags he held indicated that he was readying himself for an adventure. Sheriff Davis made his entrance, announcing himself while skillfully sidestepping the palpable tension in the room. The pass to Helena is expected to be clear enough for travel by the end of the week. Evelyn stood tall, smoothing out the creases in her skirt. That's wonderful news. Could it be? Grace confronted, tears cascading down her cheeks. What prevents us from remaining indefinitely? Why do adults always spoil everything? She dashed out of the room before either adult had a chance to reply, her footsteps thundering up the stairs. Zoe sat quietly at the kitchen table, her serious gaze shifting between her mother and Levi. With a heavy sigh, Evelyn made her way toward the stairs, feeling the weight of her concern. Allow me to give it a shot, Levi proposed softly. She could be attuned to another perspective at this moment. With a look of astonishment, Evelyn gave a slight nod, granting her consent. As Levi vanished up the stairs, she took a seat next to Zoe, gently brushing her daughter's dark hair. How do you feel about a trip to Helena? She inquired softly. Zoe pondered the question with her usual depth of reflection. Is Levi joining us as well? Absolutely not, darling. Levi must remain here to tend to his farm. Then I don't want to go, Zoe said plainly. Levi has become a part of our family. The words pierced Evelyn's heart, validating her deepest fears. The girls had forged bonds that would render their impending separation all the more heart-wrenching. Levi has shown us great kindness, she elaborated thoughtfully. However, we don't truly belong to his family. It's essential for us to carve our own path. Zoe's expression indicated her belief that the reasoning of adults was fundamentally misguided. Yet, she resumed her drawing, dismissing any further debate. Levi gently rapped on Grace's door from upstairs. May I enter? Silence greeted him, yet he stepped inside, discovering Grace sprawled on her bed, her shoulders trembling with tears. He perched uncomfortably on the brink of the mattress, feeling uncertain about how to provide her with comfort. I constructed this house, he started casually, as though they were chatting about the forecast. Every timber was cut, every wall was raised, all with the support of neighbors. It was all crafted by Amelia. She possessed a keen perception for such matters, desiring expansive windows oriented to the east to embrace the morning glow. Grace's sobs softened a bit as she tuned in. After her passing, the house seemed overwhelmingly vast, filled with an unsettling emptiness. I thought about walking away, seeking a cozier place, but the thought of leaving behind what we had created together was unbearable. Levi took a moment, collecting his ideas. On a snowy night, I discovered 3 individuals resting in my barn. In an instant, the house seemed less expansive than before. Grace turned over, her face marked by tears as she lifted it from the pillow. So, What's the reason for us having to go? Levi let out a deep sigh. It's intricate, Grace. At times, grown-ups must navigate tough decisions for reasons that may be puzzling to younger minds. That's what Mama said when Papa passed away, Grace retorted, with a hint of accusation. It was just as perplexing back then. Levi offered a wistful smile at her insight. Your mother is making an effort to ensure the best for both you and Zoe. She exhibits remarkable courage in that regard.
But what truly serves your interests?
Grace inquired with an unpretentious candor. Isn't a family something you desire as well? The inquiry left Levi utterly at a loss for words. How could he convey to this child that at times what one truly needed was exactly what remained out of reach? He finally assured her that he would be fine. And thus you and Zoe shall too. Your mother possesses a remarkable strength, much like your own. You'll create a fulfilling life in Helena. Grace examined his face with uncertainty. Will you remember us? No matter what. I'll always remember you, Levi said honestly. Not in a century. The dialogue appeared to calm Grace to some extent, yet her gaze continued to reflect a sense of unease as Levi exited her room. In the corridor, he almost bumped into Evelyn, who had evidently been eavesdropping. Thank you, she whispered, her face a mask of mystery. Levi nodded, feeling a wave of discomfort wash over him as her gaze pierced through him. I will be arriving in town tomorrow. It's time to get some supplies ordered ahead of summer. Certainly, Evelyn responded, moving aside to allow him to go by. That night, Levi found himself wide awake long after the house had succumbed to silence, his thoughts swirling with endless possibilities and lingering regrets. Grace's question resonated in his mind. Isn't a family something you desire as well? The response was far more intricate than he had let on. Before dawn, Levi got up and dressed softly, leaving a note on the kitchen table to explain his early trip to town. The reality was far more intricate. He craved solitude to reflect, a sense of clarity that felt elusive in a home brimming with echoes of what he might forfeit. In Riverspend, the early spring morning revealed a quiet scene with only a handful of souls wandering the streets. Levi secured his horse outside the telegraph office, determined to send a message inquiring about lumber prices to a sawmill in the neighboring county. As he stepped out, tucking the receipt into his pocket, a recognizable voice called out to him. Mason, do you have a moment? Sheriff Davis walked over, his demeanor notably serious. I've heard that the Bennett woman is making her way to Helena shortly. Levi gave a brief nod. Information spreads quickly. Small towns, Davis said with a dismissive shrug. Hey, there's something important I need to share with you. A stranger passed through town yesterday, inquiring about a widow and her 2 daughters. He mentioned he hailed from Silver Creek Way. Levi experienced an unsettling chill, even with the sun shining brightly in the morning sky. What type of inquiries? Primarily concerning locations, whether someone fitting their description had come by. It appeared you were quite intrigued when Jenkins brought up your farm. Davis observed Levi with great attention. Is there anything I need to be aware of regarding this situation, Mason? What did you say to him? Levi inquired, sidestepping the question. Nothing certain, Davis reassured him. There was an unsettling quality about the man. However, Riverspend isn't particularly large. It won't require much inquiry before someone directs him to you. Thoughts swirled through Levi's mind. Did he provide a name? He referred to himself as Bennett. He mentioned that he was searching for his wife and children. The words struck Levi with the force of a tangible impact. Last fall, a tragic mine collapse claimed the life of Owen Bennett. Evelyn obtained formal notification. Davis arched an eyebrow. In those accidents, it's not uncommon for bodies to remain unrecovered. Mining companies often lack a reputation for meticulous record-keeping regarding casualties. Do you believe he is truly her husband? Levi inquired about the potential of plunging his thoughts into chaos. Davis responded with uncertainty. I just wanted to give you a heads up before he arrives at your doorstep. If he does, I would be grateful for a message. There's an unsettling quality to his inquiries. Levi expressed his gratitude to the sheriff before gracefully mounting his horse, encouraging the creature to break into a gallop the moment they left the town behind. The farm appeared on the horizon more swiftly than expected. The horse reacted to his pressing need. In the farmyard, he discovered Evelyn busy hanging laundry. Her hair danced free from its usual tidy bun in the gentle spring breeze. She gazed upward in astonishment at his sudden reappearance. Is that you, Levi? Is everything okay? He hopped off swiftly, his eyes sweeping the yard in search of the girls. Where can I find Grace and Zoe? As she collected the eggs in the henhouse, Evelyn responded. Her expression shifted to one of concern. Levi, what has transpired? He guided her away from the clothesline, his voice dropping to a whisper. A man has been inquiring about you around town. Claims to be Owen Bennett, in search of his wife and children. Evelyn's complexion faded to a ghostly pallor. The damp fabric slipped from her fingers, falling unnoticed to the earth below. That can't be done. Owen has passed away. I personally confirmed his identity. Are you really sure? Mining accidents have the potential to. I observed him. Evelyn cut in, her voice wavering. His visage bore the marks of injury. Yet, I was well aware of my husband. The organization provided me with his personal belongings. The death benefit was disbursed. Levi observed her response intently, noting authentic surprise instead of remorse or trickery. Sheriff Davis remarked that this man had an unusual demeanor. Is it possible that someone is pretending to be Owen for some reason? Evelyn clutched the fence post tightly, her thoughts swirling in a chaotic whirlwind. The mining community. I received a payment of $50 from the company. It may not have been significant, but in Silver Creek. Her voice faded, a fresh apprehension emerging in her gaze. Whispers circulated about men who exploited mining widows, asserting they were long-lost kin entitled to death benefits. Is the money still in your possession? Levi inquired. Evelyn nodded in agreement. I had it stitched into the lining of my travel bag. To Helena. Levi swiftly reached a conclusion. Gather the girls. Bring just the essentials. You will be residing at the Sanderson estate. The forsaken homestead? Yet it's hardly holding up. It lies 3 miles to the west, concealed within that grove of cottonwoods. No one from the town visits that place. You will remain secure while we work through this situation. Levi was already making his way toward the house. I will deliver the supplies once night falls. Evelyn seized his arm. Levi, if this individual poses a threat, I will take care of it. Levi conveyed his point with unwavering certainty, his tone brooking no dissent. However, I require you and the girls to leave this place first. Before long, Evelyn and her daughters found refuge in the run-down Sanderson cabin, equipped with blankets, food, and clear orders to stay indoors. Levi made his way back to the farm, his rifle meticulously cleaned and loaded, ready to await the arrival of their guest. He was quick to act. As the late afternoon settled in, the rhythmic sound of hooves drew near, accompanied by the voice of an unfamiliar figure calling out from the yard. Greetings. Is anyone there? Levi made his way onto the porch, rifle in hand, held with an air of nonchalance yet unmistakably present. How may I assist you? The man who stepped down was younger than Levi had anticipated, likely around 35, with a striking face partially hidden by a well-groomed beard. His attire was excessively elegant for someone of low status, and his demeanor exuded an assurance that seemed incongruous for a survivor of a life-threatening incident. I am Owen Bennett, he declared, taking off his hat. I realize that my wife and daughters could be residing here. That's not correct, Levi responded calmly. There is no one with that name present. The smile of the stranger was devoid of warmth, failing to illuminate his eyes. How peculiar. Half the town has a different opinion. He surveyed the yard, taking in the sight of the freshly laundered clothes still hanging on the line. It appears that a woman has been managing the household. Is it all right if I take a look around? Simply for my own fulfillment. I do mind, Levi said, adjusting his rifle with a subtle movement. This area is designated as private property. A fleeting shadow of danger crossed the man's features before his charming smile re-emerged. I hope you don't mind my candor, Mr. Mason, but it seems there has been a misunderstanding. Evelyn is my beloved partner. There was indeed an accident, but claims of my demise were untimely. I have spent several months recuperating in a hospital in Helena. If that's the case, Levi questioned, then why did the mining company provide death benefits? What was the reason for her to identify your body? The man's smile grew more restrained. A heartbreaking instance of misidentification. Yet another unfortunate individual draped in my coat. Amid the chaos that followed the collapse, he extended his hands in a sign of acceptance. However, I possess evidence of who I am. He reached deliberately into his coat, drawing forth papers that he presented with assurance. Documents like the marriage certificate, bank statements, and a cherished photograph from our wedding day. I need to have a conversation with Evelyn. Resolve this unfortunate situation. Levi remained still, not reaching for the offered papers. There was an inconsistency in this man's narrative that raised questions. Nevertheless, he appeared exceptionally ready. What if he was being honest? What if Owen Bennett had managed to survive in some way? She isn't here, Levi finally stated. Last week I took the girls to visit some relatives near Fort Benton. A flicker of disappointment crossed the stranger's features. Swiftly acquired. Understood. When do you anticipate her coming back? It's difficult to determine. The condition of the roads remains poor during this season. The man tucked his papers back into his pocket, his amiable disposition waning. I will be residing at the hotel in Riverspend. Kindly let Evelyn know of my arrival upon her return. I can't wait to bring my family back together. As the stranger climbed onto his horse, he locked eyes with Levi, his gaze intense and unwavering. Additionally, Mr. Mason, I appreciate the support you provided to my wife and children. Your generosity is truly valued. However, they are now under my care. The unspoken menace lingered as he departed on his steed. Levi lingered on the porch, watching until the rider faded from sight. She swiftly made her way into the house, collecting more supplies. As dusk settled, he arrived at the Sanderson place, spotting Evelyn nervously peering through a fractured window. He arrived, Levi affirmed before she had the chance to inquire. Asserts identity as Owen, backed by documentation to validate it. States that an error occurred. Another man was donning his coat in the mine. Evelyn settled into a wobbly chair. That can't be done. I understood my husband. His hands adorned with a wedding ring. They belonged to Owen. Is it possible that someone took his papers prior to the collapse? The coat he wore. Evelyn shook her head, visibly grappling with the weight of the implications. Owen consistently kept our marriage certificate and bank book close at hand. Claimed it was more secure with him than at our corporate residence. Suddenly her eyes grew wide. The image captured. Did he bring up a wedding photograph? Levi gave a slight nod. Claimed he possessed one as evidence. That's simply not feasible, Evelyn murmured. 2 years ago, a kitchen fire claimed our sole wedding photograph. Owen often felt a sense of loss over our inability to have another. In the dimming glow, their gazes met, and a shared realization began to unfold. This individual, whoever he may be, was certainly not Owen Bennett. His interest in Evelyn probably had no connection to the family reunion. Levi came to the realization of the $50. That's precisely what he seeks. And he would go to any lengths to achieve it, Evelyn remarked, her eyes darting anxiously to her slumbering daughters, even going so far as to assert that he was their father. Levi's expression set with determination. He will stay far away from them, I assure you of that. As the shadows deepened around the forsaken homestead, Levi and Evelyn huddled together, strategizing their next steps against an unforeseen menace. A lifeless man returns, clutching forged documents and harboring sinister motives. Outside the cabin, the spring peepers launched into their evening song, unaware of the human story playing out inside. Dawn seeped through the crevices of the Sanderson cabin's worn walls, casting bands of golden light onto the dusty floor. Evelyn had hardly closed her eyes, her thoughts swirling with uncertainty regarding the mysterious figure asserting he was her husband. Who was he, truly? How did he come into possession of Owen's personal papers? And most concerning, how would he react upon uncovering the truth behind the ruse? "Mother?" Grace's drowsy voice drifted from the corner where the girls had cozily tucked themselves beneath borrowed quilts. "What is the reason for our concealment?" Evelyn shared a look with Levi, who had kept vigil through the night in a chair by the door, rifle resting across his knees. They had decided to protect the children from the complete reality. "It's merely a small adventure," Evelyn replied, injecting a sense of enthusiasm into her tone. "Similar to camping, yet with shelter overhead." Grace's doubtful look indicated her uncertainty, yet soon her hunger took precedence. While Evelyn made a modest breakfast from the provisions Levi had provided, she caught sight of Zoe observing Levi with a peculiar focus.
"What is it, darling?"
Evelyn inquired. Zoe gestured toward Levi's face, murmuring, "He's scared too." The child's viewpoint took them both by surprise. Before either adult had a chance to reply, the sound of hoofbeats drew near from outside, prompting Levi to rush to the window without hesitation. He eased a bit when he spotted Sheriff Davis's unmistakable bay mare. Davis stepped down carefully, his gaze sweeping over the crumbling homestead. "Mason, are you present?" Levi swung the door open, a sense of relief radiating from his stance. "Sheriff, how did you track us down?" Davis responded with a straightforward remark. "I followed your tracks. Few people venture to the old Sanderson place these days." His eyes shifted beyond Levi, landing on Evelyn and the girls. "Ma'am, I thought it would be important to inform you that your husband has been inquiring quite directly around town, even offering money for details regarding your location." Evelyn's hand moved reflexively to her throat. "Has anyone informed him about this location?" Davis reassured her. "Not that I'm aware of. However, the river's flow is not adept at holding on to secrets. It won't be long until the abandoned homestead is brought up as an option." Levi ventured outside, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Sheriff, we suspect this individual is not who he claims to be." Mrs. Bennett recognized her husband's lifeless form following the tragic mine collapse. She asserts that the wedding photograph he alleges to have was, in fact, destroyed many years ago. Davis considered the matter with a contemplative nod. "This morning I sent a telegram to Silver Creek. The sheriff recalls the Bennett case. It has been confirmed that Owen Bennett was indeed one of those who passed away. Certificate of death and all related documents." "So who exactly is this individual?" Levi insisted. Davis responded with uncertainty. "However, reports have surfaced about a con artist operating in mining towns, specifically preying on widows who have received settlements, known by various titles." Within the cabin, Evelyn absorbed the unsettling confirmation of her worries as she engaged the girls with their breakfast. The small area abruptly transformed into a confinement instead of a refuge. "We need to leave," she said to Levi as he stepped back inside. "If he discovers our presence here, we're trapped." Levi lowered himself to her eye level as she perched on a wobbly chair. "The sheriff is going to assist us. He mentioned that a U.S. Marshal is passing through Helena who can apprehend this man for fraud. I simply want to ensure your safety and that of the girls until that time arrives." "What is the duration? Perhaps 3 days? Or possibly 4? Evelyn glanced at her daughters before turning her gaze back to Levi. "We can't linger here for too long. The girls require adequate shelter and access to clean water." Sheriff Davis, having trailed Levi into the room, cleared his throat. "My sister owns a property beyond Riverspend, secluded enough to ensure safety, yet cozy enough for the kids. I can bring you there today." A glimmer of hope danced in Evelyn's eyes, only to be snuffed out by the weight of doubt. "What if he trails behind us?" "It follows us there as well." "That's why you'll accompany the sheriff," Levi explained softly, as I made my way back to the farm. Realization washed over Evelyn's face. "You will take on the role of the bait." Levi nodded, his expression unwavering. "If he believes you've gone back to the farm, he'll start searching for you." "The sheriff has the authority to apprehend him there for at least trespassing. That should suffice to keep him secure until the marshal shows up." "It's far too perilous," Evelyn argued. "This individual is in a state of desperation. One can only speculate about his next move." "I'll be fine," Levi reassured her, though his confidence sounded empty even to himself. "My concern lies with you and the girls." Sheriff Davis skillfully exited the room, allowing them the space to deliberate on the strategy. In the quiet that ensued, Grace moved closer, her expression serious as she regarded the young face. "Is the villain searching for us?" she inquired straightforwardly. Evelyn paused for a moment, then gave a slight nod. "Indeed, my dear. A man is masquerading as your father in an attempt to seize the funds we've set aside for Helena." Grace's eyes grew large, yet Papa resides in heaven. "Indeed he is," Evelyn affirmed softly. "This individual is spreading falsehoods." Grace reflected on this information with unexpected calmness. "Do we really need to stay hidden until the sheriff apprehends him?" "Indeed," Levi replied. "You will accompany Sheriff Davis to a secure location while I remain at the farm, but you will find yourself alone when the danger arrives." Grace objected, authentic trepidation evident on her face. Levi offered a comforting smile. "I have dealt with disruptive individuals in the past. Additionally, Rusty will alert me if someone comes near." The reference to Levi's devoted dog offered Grace a flicker of solace, yet concern still shadowed her face. Zoe, having quietly taken in the adult discussion, unexpectedly interjected. "May I offer you something, Mr. Levi?" she inquired, her voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Levi crouched down to meet the child's gaze. "What is it, Zoe?" The young girl quietly took a small item from her pocket. The wooden horse that Levi had meticulously crafted for her several months prior. With a firm grip, she placed it in his palm, her sincere gaze locking onto his. She explained it simply, attributing it to luck. "Ah, so you've returned to us." Levi wrapped his fingers around the small carving, unexpectedly touched by the child's gesture. "I assure you." After an hour, Evelyn and the girls found refuge in the cabin belonging to Sheriff Davis's sister, a snug dwelling nestled among a grove of pines located 10 miles from Riverspend. Levi made his way back to the farm, the wooden horse tucked safely in his pocket, bracing himself for the arrival of an unwelcome guest. The farm felt eerily silent in the absence of Evelyn and the kids. Levi navigated his evening tasks with a sense of routine, tending to the animals and ensuring the barn was locked up tight. Within the confines of the house, he intentionally kept the lamps aglow to imply the presence of several inhabitants, then settled himself in the shadowy parlor, rifle poised, with a rusty alert resting at his feet. The darkness enveloped the landscape, ushering in a heavy stillness, punctuated solely by the sporadic hoot of an owl or the far-off cry of a coyote. Time slipped away. Levi battled the creeping drowsiness, resolute in his quest to stay alert. Just past midnight, Rusty's ears perked up, a low growl vibrating in his throat. Shortly after, Levi caught the sound as well, the gentle rhythm of hoofbeats intentionally muted to reduce any disturbance, followed by a hush that indicated the rider had alighted some way off. Levi snuffed out the parlor lamp, enveloping the room in shadow. Through the window, he noticed a flicker of movement, a shadow separating from the surrounding darkness, advancing toward the house with deliberate caution. The figure halted at the porch steps, seemingly attuned to the faintest sounds emanating from inside. As the first floorboard groaned beneath the intruder's step, Levi realized his scheme was unfolding perfectly. The deceiver had fallen for the trap. The intruder glided through the shadows, each movement deliberate and designed to avoid detection. Amidst the shadows, Levi followed his path along the porch, observing as he probed the front door and discovered it, intentionally left ajar. Rusty's growl deepened as the door swung open, allowing a sliver of moonlight to spill in and reveal the figure of the man who called himself Owen Bennett. Levi stayed perfectly still in his hidden spot, his finger gently poised next to the trigger guard of his rifle. The sheriff had laid out his orders plainly. Engage, but refrain from firing unless it was truly unavoidable. This man had to be kept alive to confront the consequences of his actions. "Evelyn," the intruder whispered, his tone laced with feigned sympathy. "My name is Owen. I've arrived to bring you and the girls back home." The intruder moved deeper into the residence, gliding through the beam of moonlight that momentarily revealed his striking, shrewd features, completely intent on his goal. In his right hand, he held an object that Levi couldn't quite place at first. "Evelyn, if you would be so kind. It seems you're feeling a bit lost. The sheriff mentioned that you've been residing here." His tone was soft and measured, embodying the essence of a caring partner rather than that of a hunter on the prowl. Levi had reached his limit. With a flick of his wrist, he ignited the match, illuminating the lamp beside him in a seamless motion. "As I mentioned yesterday, she is not here." The imposter turned to face the light, their initial shock swiftly concealed by a practiced smile. "Mr. Mason, you caught me off guard." His gaze flicked across the space, evaluating escape routes and potential dangers. "I regret any disruption this may have caused, yet I am fervently seeking my family." "We both know they're not your family," Levi said calmly, his rifle resting across his body, ready but not yet menacing. Sheriff Davis sent a telegram to Silver Creek. Owen Bennett perished in that mine collapse just as his wife had foretold. A fleeting shadow of danger crossed the stranger's face before his charming demeanor returned. "I can assure you it was simply a misunderstanding. Telegraph messages often become distorted. Documents have gone missing, and wedding photographs that were lost in kitchen fires 2 years ago suddenly resurface." Levi took on the challenge. The imposter's smile wavered for a brief moment. In the soft glow of the lamplight, Levi's gaze fell upon the object the man clutched. A sizable hunting knife, its blade partially hidden against his trouser leg. Where could she be? The man insisted, his facade of cordiality fading away. "Where is the money?" Levi tightened his hold on the rifle. Sheriff Davis is expected to arrive at any moment now. I recommend you depart at this moment while the opportunity remains." The imposter chuckled, a chilling noise lacking any trace of amusement. "Davis is managing a commotion at the saloon. I will be away for several hours." It was intended to be that way. He advanced, the blade now displayed prominently. "This is your final opportunity." "Where can I find Evelyn Bennett?" Levi responded honestly, stating it was far beyond your reach. The imposter's expression stiffened with rage. "Can you even comprehend the effort I've put into locating that woman? For 3 months, I followed her from Silver Creek, paying off company officials for documents, uncovering every detail about Owen Bennett so I could step into his shoes." "Is it really just $50? Levi inquired with disbelief. "Is it really worth all this for such a tiny amount?" $50 is merely the starting point," the man growled. "More is on the way. The miners' union is advocating for the company to provide further settlements. It might amount to hundreds for every widow." His lip twisted in disdain. "Well, I wouldn't anticipate a dirt farmer grasping the significance of true currency." The slight barely affected Levi, whose attention was drawn instead to the man's growing restlessness. Rusty felt the unease in the air. His growl deepened as he placed himself firmly between Levi and the intruder. "The dog emits yet another sound. I will take him down, right where he is." The imposter menaced, wielding his weapon with a fierce intent. A fierce determination ignited within Levi at the thought of danger looming over his devoted friend. With a seamless movement, he lifted his rifle, disregarding Sheriff Davis's directives. "Put down the knife." At this moment, the imposter, rather than yielding, surged ahead with surprising swiftness. Levi pulled the trigger, but the abrupt motion disrupted his shot. The bullet shattered, ricocheting off something behind the assailant, who then barreled into Levi, delivering the full impact of his mass. They fell back, the rifle caught uncomfortably in their midst. The imposter swung his knife with reckless abandon, tearing through Levi's sleeve and cutting into the flesh below. A sharp pain shot through Levi's forearm, yet the rush of adrenaline propelled him to continue the struggle. Rusty propelled himself toward the assailant, his teeth gripping firmly onto the man's knife-wielding arm. The imposter let out a piercing howl, momentarily caught off guard by the sudden surge of pain. With precision, Levi took advantage of the moment, driving his knee upward and sending the man sprawling to the side. The knife fell with a sharp clatter onto the floor. Levi rushed after it, but the imposter regained composure swiftly, delivering a powerful strike to Levi's jaw that left him staggering. Brilliant flashes erupted in his sight as his head collided with the edge of the hearth. With a hazy vision, he watched as the deceiver picked up his knife, moving closer with a deadly purpose. "You ought to have kept to your own affairs, farmer." The man glared, lifting the weapon high. A thunderous bang echoed through the air. The imposter halted abruptly, a look of bewilderment flickering across his face before he collapsed to the ground. Behind him stood Evelyn, gripping Levi's extra shotgun with trembling hands, the barrel still warm with smoke. "Evelyn," Levi exclaimed, fighting to rise even as the world swirled around him. "In what way?" "I couldn't allow you to confront him by yourself," she replied, gently lowering the shotgun. Her gaze remained fixed on the man who lay on the ground. "Could it be that he is?" Levi crouched next to the still imposter, searching for any signs of life. "Injured, yet alive." "You struck him in the shoulder." A wave of relief swept across Evelyn's face. "Thank goodness. I have no experience with shooting anyone." Her calm facade started to falter as the weight of delayed shock began to take hold. "The girls are in good hands with Mrs. Davis. I mentioned that I left something significant at the farm." Levi ripped strips from his shirt to dress the imposter's wound and tie his hands, all the while grappling with Evelyn's sudden reappearance. "Your return was unwise. The risk was simply too great." Evelyn replied simply, "I couldn't stay away knowing you were in danger because of us. Not after all that you've accomplished." Just as Levi was about to reply, the sound of hoofbeats drew near, accompanied by Sheriff Davis's voice echoing his name. Evelyn swung the door open, her words tumbling out in quick, breathless bursts as Davis assessed the situation with a keen, practiced eye. Davis remarked, scrutinizing the unconscious imposter, "It seems we've captured the Silver Creek widowmaker. Marshal Kane has been on the trail of this elusive snake for months, sought after in 3 different territories." While the sheriff secured the prisoner in his wagon, Evelyn was determined to tend to Levi's knife wound, insisting on cleaning and bandaging it herself. Her touch was soft, even with her hands still shaking. "You might have lost your life," she murmured gently. "So you could," Levi replied. In the soft glow of the lamplight, their eyes locked, sharing a fleeting moment of complete understanding. Words felt insufficient to capture the depth of their shared experience, the near loss that lingered between them. Sheriff Davis re-entered, breaking the tension of the moment. "I must ensure this rogue is locked away before he regains his senses. You will need to come by tomorrow to provide statements." He halted, casting a curious glance back and forth between them. "What a courageous act you performed, Mrs. Bennet. Returning to this place, many would have chosen to remain in the shadows."
"Some things are worth the gamble, Sheriff," Evelyn replied, her gaze fixed on Levi. Once Davis left with his captive, a profound stillness enveloped the farmhouse. Not the hollow quiet of Levi's lonely years, but rather a sense of anticipation, filled with hope. "At last," Evelyn concluded, "I ought to go back to the girls." "They'll be concerned," Levi acknowledged, feeling a sudden uncertainty about their position. The peril was behind them, yet uncertainties about what lay ahead lingered unresolved. "I'll get the wagon ready," he said. While Levi readied the horses, Evelyn collected a handful of items from the house. As she stepped onto the porch, she held something that caused Levi to stop in his tracks, the finished rocking chair he had crafted for Amelia. She suggested this, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Grace and Zoe have developed a strong bond with it." Levi felt a sudden constriction in his throat, overwhelmed by an unexpected wave of emotion. The journey to the Davis homestead unfolded largely in a comfortable quiet, with each person absorbed in their own reflections. It was only when the cabin appeared on the horizon that Evelyn finally broke her silence. "Levi, concerning Helena, there's no rush to make any decisions this evening," he interjected softly. "There's time now." Evelyn nodded, yet a flicker in her expression hinted that she had already come to a decision. "I've been reflecting on some thoughts. The journey to Helena is quite lengthy, and my cousin's circumstances are, at best, uncertain." Levi lingered, his heart fluttering with cautious anticipation. "The girls require a sense of stability," Evelyn elaborated thoughtfully. "A secure haven, known companions." She inhaled deeply. "If your offer remains available regarding the position of housekeeper—" "It stands," Levi affirmed, his heart racing. But, Evelyn repeated, her confidence wavering. Levi brought the wagon to a halt, pivoting to meet her gaze completely. "However, I would like to propose something additional, if you are open to it." He delved into his pocket, his fingers wrapping around Zoe's wooden horse, seeking a surge of courage. "Not as my housekeeper, Evelyn, but as my partner in life." Shock illuminated Evelyn's expression, soon giving way to a richer, more intricate emotion. "Levi, there's no need for that." He quickly reassured her that his offer was not made out of obligation. "The last few months have seen you and the girls breathe new energy into my home and into my very being. Finding family again after Amelia was something I never anticipated. I never imagined I'd feel this way," his voice thick with emotion. "However, I certainly do. I desire your presence, not out of necessity for a space, but because your company is essential to me." Evelyn's eyes sparkled under the glow of the moon. "The community will have much to say." "Allow them," Levi responded. "We understand the essence of our identity and the journey we've shared." From within the cabin, a child's face emerged at the window, peering anxiously for their return. Beside her, Zoe's serious gaze was locked onto them, as if she grasped the weight of this moment. Evelyn tracked Levi's gaze to her daughter, then returned her focus to him, a resolute decision forming in her eyes. "Indeed," she replied gently. "Indeed, Levi Mason, I accept your proposal of marriage." Levi's face lit up with relief and joy. He grasped her hand, sensing that a crucial part of his being had at last been reclaimed. "I assure you, Evelyn, that I will be a devoted father to them, a devoted partner for you." "I understand," she murmured, gripping his hand tightly. "You already are." As they neared the cabin, Grace flung the door open with Zoe right on her heels. "Mom, Mr. Levi, you've returned." Levi knelt down, wrapping both girls in a tender embrace, even with his injured arm. He confirmed that we are back. Everyone united as one. Above the children's heads, his gaze locked with Evelyn's, brimming with the hope of what was to come. What started on a frigid winter evening with desperate individuals in search of refuge evolved into an unforeseen journey for both, a renewed opportunity for connection, for affection, for completeness. Outside the cabin, spring stars twinkled in the Montana sky, silently observing as four lives, once marked by loss and solitude, intertwined into a shared journey ahead, united.